2013 Toyota Highlander needs front brakes. So I've already gone ahead and done the other side, and working on that side, ran into a few things that I found that if your brakes have been done by a shop or just somebody who's not familiar with how to do this, if you have some noise up front, this might be the issue. So hopefully this video will kind of show you. So the first issue I had was, number one, the rotors are warped. They got a little bit of a lip. I mean, it's not terrible, but you could tell they've been turned at least once. So we're just going to go ahead and just put new ones in. Bought the car like that. Most of the times you could get them turned, but like I said, I'm going to keep this car for a while and just rather get something nicer. Now, the other issue I was having with it was that every time I would brake, I'd get a weird noise, kind of like a little knock chatter sound, and wasn't sure what it was. But after doing the other side, kind of figured that out, and we'll talk about that in just a sec. Now, my suggestion is if you're gonna buy the brakes, I do recommend getting it at the dealership, and here's why. So I paid $350 for this. Got two brand new rotors. I mean, pretty nice. The center is painted, and the quality is just always better with the OEM, just my opinion. There are some good aftermarket alternatives, but I like to go original. With that, I also have purchased, obviously, the pads. You have to buy these shims and I think it's the anti-squeal. Yeah, the shim and the anti-squeal separately. And then also, I've already installed them, but there's another bag just for these clips that hold them in place. So just kind of keep that in mind, that if you're gonna go to dealership, you just got to buy everything. So now $350 may seem like a lot for it. If you go aftermarket, you're gonna spend about $300. I think the pads, the rotors are going for about $100 a pop, and this is like O'Reilly's price, and the pads are about $70. So with taxes, you're at $300. But if you have the shims and all the anti-squeal stuff and everything, you can actually save about $50–60 and reuse them, as that's typically what I do, and save a bunch of money. So I'm glad I bought it, and I'll show you why in just a sec. So my recommendation, just go OEM. All right, so we gotta take off these two bolts, one on the top, one on the bottom. They're both 14s. These were really tight on the other side, so let's see if this gun will actually take them off. Time for the big guns. Now this should slide off easy, just like so. All right. Let them hang with the clip. I don't suggest letting them hang by the hose. All right. So let's get these clips out. Now, a lot of times when I've seen aftermarket ones, they typically don't have these clips. People don't put them in for whatever reason. Another reason why, to make sure you have the hardware. Now, I'm gonna pop these out, and one of the issues that I found is it doesn't have that I think it's the anti-squeal or anti-rattle clips. They didn't put it in for this. So you could tell these pads are aftermarket. Now the Toyota ones have a one-piece vibration shim that kind of goes over it, and I'll show you when we put that in. So these pads are aftermarket. They didn't put those clips in, and because of that, when I'm braking, this kind of bounces up and down because this is what sits right up in here. So that's actually the noise that I have been hearing. The pads are not terrible, but OEM, new rotors, let's do it right. Now the caliper bracket is a 17 up down here, 17 up here. Good thing about Toyota is that they give you plenty of room to do this. Let's get this rotor out. So on the other side, this came out easy, but this one's kind of stuck. So hopefully, a little tap. Now, if you were going to reuse these, I don't recommend doing this. But there is some threaded screws over here. I forget what the size is. You can pop it in. This will pull them out. But I live in the South, and corrosion is not too much of an issue. I'll get a wire brush, clean that up, and we'll be good to go. All right, so we need to compress this. I don't have the right tool per se to do it. Just take a pad, take this one. I need one that's for dual pistons. That would make this easier, but I mean, this is an option. You could use a C-clamp, just a whole bunch of different options, but this works. And I kind of just go one side at a time. And this is a good way to find out if my caliper is good. If the caliper was bad, it would be stuck and you won't be able to push it in, but this is going in like butter. And this car has like 200,000 miles on it, so I'm sure this thing will get another 100,000. There we go. Let's make sure the boots are good. We'll tuck these back in, make sure they're good later. So let's move on to the caliper bracket. Now for this, take a mental note of how these things are installed, because they go different ways depending on the side. So you can see how that looks. It's pretty much when it mounts in like so. You need to be able to slide the brake pads in this way. If you have it the other way, it won't slide in, so slide in this way. Same thing with the rear, slide in that way. And then if you notice, this tab right over here sticks out a little bit more. The tabs up top right there are smoother, so take mental notes and shouldn't have any issues. Now the biggest thing, and it was on the other side, is that these were seized. Yeah, and these are also, well, this one moves pretty good, so yeah. So pretty much I'll take these out, get rid of the old grease. I should have replaced them, but it's fine, I'll be able to use it. Just future note, maybe something you might want to replace, but get the old grease off, clean it up real good, and make sure these slide out. Now because rust is not an issue in my area, typically with this I just take just a metal wire brush just like this and just kind of clean it off. If rust was an issue in your area, you might want to take something a little more aggressive to sand it down. Sometimes you'll get rust jacking, but I mean, this thing is smooth as butter. So just clean it up lightly like this. Get both sides, do the same thing. Another thing to note is that the pins are different. Like this one up here has that little rubber piece. So I clean and fix the pins one pin at a time. That way I don't mix them up and it goes in exactly the way it's supposed to be. Now another thing to note, and hopefully the camera catches this, is that you don't want to mix up greases. I got two different types of greases, and like right over here, it's kind of clumped up and hard, which is probably what caused it to stick in place. Get rid of all the old grease, get rid of it inside the caliper bracket, and just put new fresh grease. Silicone paste works great. There's also slide pin grease that I use, a synthetic one. That one works fantastic, but don't mix the grease. If you're going to clean this up, get everything out and stick to one grease. So everything up lubed up pretty good, moving nice and free, nice and easy. Something I do is I just put a very light film of that grease, that anti-seize slide pin grease. This is the one I use. You don't have to do it, especially in my area, since we get no rust or anything like that. So, but I've done it for years and I've never had a problem with it. Just like I said, a little dab on the seat, very light film, don't go crazy with it. And then they slide right in just like so. Same thing over here. We're done, and I'll probably put a very, very light film of that grease just right over here. So let's pop the rotor on. All right, something I do quick, a little bit of that fluid film just right over here on the hub, just to kind of keep it from seizing again. Really don't have that issue over here, but why not? I've already cleaned this rotor off camera. Some brake part cleaner, good as new. And the one thing about these Toyotas is that these rotors just kind of sit in like snug, which is pretty nice. I guess it has a tight clearance for it or something like that. You know, typically you have to have a screw or use some type of tire lug just to hold it in place, but I mean, this is right there, which makes it a lot easier. So these are the Toyota pads, And these pieces, like I said, they're separate, and it comes with these clips. I think they're anti-rattle clips. These snap on just like so. You see the little hooks that grab onto it. So if you look right over here, I don't know if you can see right in there, but there's a little clip that bites into the pad. And if you look at the pad right over here, you can see the indent in it. So it only goes in one way, and usually you should hear it clip in or snap in. Just kind of, there you go. I mean, it snaps right in just like so. We'll do that for this one. And I just check to make sure that it's not sitting all cattywampus or anything. There we go. That clicked in. And just kind of wiggle it to make sure it's clicked in. And that ain't going to go nowhere. And I can't believe that whoever worked on it now, like I said, it's aftermarket pads, so they probably just slapped them in and cut the rotors. I mean, the rotors are the original. But, hey, this is why you do things yourself. So we're going to pop this in. Now, popping it in is very simple. As all you do is just slide it in like so. Slide it like that. I mean, it's just like it was born that way. Well, maybe not the bottom. Okay. Just got to get it at the right angle. This should just slide in easy. It should not be forced. And if it is, then reassess, like what we're going to have to do right now. Find out why this is not, there we go, that's sliding in the bottom. So it's just the angle. Yeah. So it's the angle. This should be able to move in and out like that, in and out like that. And when you put those anti-drag clips that go over here, and I'll show you that later, you should be able to just push this in just like so, and it should move freely. So let's do the other side. Now these anti-drag clips, if you put them in, they're going to pop these pads out. So I'll show you a trick that I do, and maybe that's the way to do it, but that's the way I found to do it. So what I do is I just slide this in, pop in this top bolt like so. All you gotta do is just hand tighten it to kind of hold it in. The reason why I hand tighten it all the way down is that way it doesn't move out of place. Slide this up like so. Now this one goes, and they're both the same, but one goes in here. Make sure it's sitting in the slot like that. As you can see, it already wants to start popping these out. So now you hold that one in. Hold it like so. Slide it down like that. And they don't pop out. If you put the clips in and keep trying to jiggle it and do it without having this up in here and sliding it down, they're going to pop out. It gets to be a big headache. So this works. Now, one final check I do just to kind of make sure that nothing is binding is, number one, I take this and I kind of go back and forth just like this. If you notice, the clip is moving freely. See on the top, and the same thing on the bottom. As long as everything's moving freely, you should be good. You should have no issue over here. And then you could try to spin it, but I mean, I got this thing in park, but for the most part, that's one way to kind of make sure that all the clips are sitting properly. All right, so it's a pretty easy brake job. I mean, nothing to it. The key is to, number one, kind of take mental notes of which way those clips go on the caliper bracket. Make sure you have the parts and hardware. And other than that, I mean, pretty simple. Those slide pins are key. If those are seized up, that's going to cause you a lot of issues on that. But as you can see, somebody didn't put those anti-rattle clips in there. More than likely, that's the noise I'm hearing. Vibration in the steering wheel because those rotors are just worn out. Aftermarket pads, I mean, it is what it is. Biggest recommendation, takeaway I could say is go the Toyota OEM ones. You're probably going to spend maybe like $20-$30 more, or you might break even if you don't have to buy those clips, just depending on your area. But it's better quality. You're getting everything you need. You know it's going to fit, and I mean, it's Toyota. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is just good practice that I do is I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of bleed the brakes. I have no issues or air in the lines, but kind of want to get some of this fluid out, and then I'll eventually go ahead and do the rear brakes. I got them on order, so once those get in, we'll do the same thing, change those out, make sure we have all the right hardware, bleed those out, kind of get some fresh fluid going in there, and we should be good. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see what we fix next.